Okay, so as Kathy said, we got a lot of slides to go through, and there's some really wonderful plants, as always. So let's get started. In the Cattleya Alliance, we have Ludmaniana. Just let me get rid of that. Okay. Um, Cattleya ludmaniana forma flammea. It's a dark rubra color, Leslie says. And of course, the flammea means that there's flares of color on the lips that you can see there. The color here is kind of bluish. Pink and blues are really hard to do with the digital photography. I would imagine that this, like Leslie says, it's a rubra color, so probably has a lot more pink in it in real life. Okay. This is a little cattleya that everybody should grow. It doesn't require nearly as much light as a lot of cattleyas. This is a particularly robust looking flower grown by John Vermeer because you notice that both parents are 4N. 4N means that the plant has a double set of chromosomes. So it usually means that the plant is probably slower growing, but it's sort of fatter and thicker, and flowers last longer, and they just seem to be just a little bit more robust. So the breeders are always looking for 4N plants, ones with that have double set of chromosomes. This is a beautiful Cattleya purpurata, and this is a variety tipo. Now, these are fairly tall plants, but they do produce these wonderful, huge flowers, very, very fragrant, and there's a whole bunch of different varieties, but this is a very, very nice one. You can see that it's getting lots of light, and looks like Elena grows it in her window with cannabis grow lights. And I was told many, many years ago that if we listen to the people that grow cannabis, we will grow our plants, our orchids much better too. So I guess Elena is taking that advice. Another one of Leslie's plants, this is a rare color form of the normally lavender summer bloomer. Warneri, Cattleya warneri, another Brazilian species. I love the sort of very soft pink color, and it's just so gentle. It's so pretty, and he says, ethereal. And Cyclia phoenicia, this is a plant that requires lots of light, and it's amazing that I think Elena grows everything on her in her window, and she's able to grow it mounted. So that means that she must have to give it daily care. Beautiful thing, lovely contrasting colors. Brassocatlanthi Sun May Gold. This is a Richard Mueller cross. We're going to see a lot of Richard Mueller influence in the plants cattleyas that we see today. I guess this is a summer bloomer, so this is why or summer to fall bloomer, and this is why we're seeing them now. Yellow bird, as you can see, is Richard Mueller crossed back onto nodosa, so it has a double dose of nodosa, but you still have that yellow color from the Richard Mueller. And there's actually red in the background because one of the parents of Richard Mueller is the Cinnabrina, which is a orange red, or Milleri, sorry, which is the red Rubiculosalia. So there is red in there, and so oftentimes with the yellow birds, you can have more or less spotting, which comes either from the nodosa or and then some extra color from the Milleri. Beautiful no-name Cattleya. With this kind of color, I'd give it space too in my greenhouse, or my greenhouse, or my house, my growing area. This is Peng Sheng's plant. Beautiful contrasting color, nice full shape, and this is you notice that the petals kind of the line of the petals kind of goes up. Judges call these happy petals because it's like they have their arms in the air and they're celebrating. One of John Vermeer's plants, Cattleya fuchsia doll, brilliance. Now, he thinks that it should have more than one flower per inflorescence, but perhaps what we're seeing is the influence of the Cincarana, which tends to have just a single flower, but still a very beautiful thing. And even though it only has the two colors, that white in the center is just sets it off really, really nicely. This is David Bryan's plant, Cattleya memoria Robert Strait Blues. It actually got an AM 5 year, well, I guess it's 5 years ago now, in 2016 with 5 flowers, and this time it has 10 on 2 inflorescences. So David is continuing to grow his prize-winning plant very well. Another one of David's plants, this is Cattleya Valentine, 1900, Cerulean. So it's a Cerulean form. You can have the same name for a cross, but if you use different clones, you can get different effects. You notice the 1900 is there because once all the Cattleyas were grouped together, there were overlaps in names. So there was probably a Cattleya Valentine that was named in 1900, and then there was something else that was named Valentine at a different time. So that here they're referring to the one that used to be was the original Cattleya Valentine. Another one of Anna Cogan's plants, and she says this one is bloomed in March, and this is what we get with these with the compact Cattleyas. They can bloom more than once a year once they get a few growths on them, and of course their wonderful fragrance is always much appreciated. Nicely done. This is a Miracatavola Lani Mori. See, this is also a Richard Mueller cross, but this is actually crossed with a what we used to be not Sobralia, a very long stemmed Cattleya type thing. It's now called the Schomburgkia. That's what. Thank you. Schomburgkia, and they've changed the name of it, but they have very long stems, and the flowers tend to be curly. And Ted says that he really likes this because of the wiggly flowers. Now, you heard that a lot of judges want the flowers really flat, but there's some grace to it when the petals have a little bit of waviness and undulations, and I think this is really pretty. Another Richard Mueller cross. This is crossed with Ristechia vitellinea, and this is a little red plant, that red flowered plant. There used to be an encyclia, and so now you're getting a little bit more color, and they seem to be a little bit more robust because the vitellinea is actually a little bit fuller flower than the Richard Mueller. I really like this one. Procatavola key lime stars. This has a double dose of nodosa, and so you get this beautiful green color. And I guess it looks like there's just one stem. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4 flowers, beautifully flowered, and it has probably quite easy to flower. Well done, Anna. Now this is a Walnut Valley lime stars. So it's again the same kind of reading, but again, John has gotten a hold of something that is 4N, and this Walnut Valley lime stars would also probably be a 4N because both parents are contributing 2 sets of contributing 2 sets of genes instead of just one. But you can see that the plant is much more robust. The leaves seem thicker, and the flowers seem thicker too, and bigger maybe because of the extra chromosomes in that plant. This is something that every beginner should grow, but there's a group of Pristechias that they're Cackleata and Trullia, and there used to be an epidendron, and these are what they call the cockleshell orchid, and they're all very similar. and they're all quite easy to grow. But when you cross a couple of them together, they get really robust. They'll flower over a long period of time because they're sequential flowering, and they're very, very easy to grow. Great beginner plant. Well done, Yvonne. Another one of John Vermeer's beauties. Now, this is one RLC creation by Dancing Lily, crossed with Circle of Life. And of course, anytime you see Circle of Life, you're going to see this kind of very full flower, very nice. This particular one also has a very nice lip. And John tells us that it has 3 flowers at each blooming, and that Eric Lieb actually made this cross. Now we have to get Eric to register it. He seems to be reluctant to do that, but this is really nice, and I think this should have been at judging yesterday, John. It's really very nice. Now we have a couple of John's plants, the same cross, and it just goes to show you how different they can be. This is it's SVO breeding, the rubescence, which is also always gives you great color, and of course Trick or Treat gives you lots of flowers, and it's an orange flower. We've all seen Wilson's plant at the spring shows with, I don't know, 200 some odd flowers, but the color and the vigor of these plants is great. But take a look at this one and take a look at this one, completely different, and yet they're the same cross. So it's always interesting to see more than one seedling bloom, and that's why I love seedlings rather than just mariclones. The mariclones are great because you know what you're going to get, but the surprises are even better. Now, this is something interesting. This is with Memoria Coach Blackmore, grown by Sandra Micucci, and this is Aristocrat by Digbyana. Now, the thing is that Aristocrat is half Digbyana too, and so that the flower looks very much like the Digbyana, and also has the same beautiful lip, and is probably very, very fragrant. This is another one of the plants. You can see that the leaves are very thick and almost succulent-like, and that tells you that it requires lots of light and lots of heat in order to bloom. But when it blooms, it's absolutely gorgeous. Another one of David's plants, Rhyncholelia Murtha's Luck, a golden circle. Again, see your golden circle gives you a nice full flower, and Tokyo Magic. Nice compact plant, big flowers for really a relatively small plant, and so it's great to grow. One of John's plants, Lana Corelli by RLC Raspberry Parfait. This is really, really pretty. I love these soft colors. It's great to have the gaudy colors, but it's nice to have this one as a contrast. Really pretty, especially the lip has that really nice full lip, and the yellow in the center is just like a little bit of sunshine, and the happy petals, which add to the grace of the flower. This is another one of John Vermeer's plants. Louise Clark, Outstanding by Hawaiian Prominence. This is a large flower. I think this might be a standard. I'm not sure, but look at the contrast in the lip. Beautiful, beautiful contrast and very sharp lines. It's always amazing to me that a flower can know to turn on yellow here, and within 2 or 3, you get this very sharp line. So that means it knows that exactly which place to turn off the yellow and turn on the red. It's just amazing that these flowers just come out with these colors. Rhyncholelia cattleya, Chang Xing Golden Orange, Golden Boy. This is, as Elena said, that this is a space saver and it's a candy-like blooms. This is one that you see a lot of people grow, very reliable, and will bloom more than once a year as the plant gets more growths, because it'll produce growths at different times, so they just flower when they mature. Another one of Anna's plants, Rhyncholelia cattleya, Dennis Riesinger, a golden circle. Again, your circle of light, golden circle. These things produce big petals, pretty lips, and very, very nice flowers. Exotic pink sapphire, RLC exotic pink sapphire, another one of John's plants, and you can see here now this Cloud 9 is one of uh, Fred's favorite plants for breeding, because every time that he has a cross in his listing with Cloud 9, the description is always absolutely fabulous, and you really want to have one, and you can see why, because you get results like this. This is one of our plants. This is an oldie. This is a clone that has been around for a long time, and but it's never been awarded. There has been a couple of this cross awarded, the Fort Watson, but the Mendenhall has not been awarded. Big flowers. It's a big plant, but huge flowers, and just a slight scent. Very, very striking. That you can see it right across from one end of the greenhouse to the other. And from deep red, we go to beautiful green. This sea world, grown by sea swirl, sorry, grown by Frederick Menez, is a cross of Greenwich with Mount Vernon. Now, Greenwich is probably the original concolor green Cattleya, and many years ago when we first started orchids, the Greenwich was the plant to get, and it was very expensive, but it was so beautiful because it was so clear green. Now we go to the Vanda Alliance. This is Aranthes ramosa, is grown by Ted and Charlene Kretz. Now, he says that the spikes start early in the spring, and you have to remember that these are plants that grow. They're from Madagascar, and they're monopodal plants, and they put out this wire stem, and you really have to watch for it because you could cut it off, and you hit it, and it takes a long time for the buds to develop. And I think you can remember from the last show table, I think we had one that was actually looking face on, and face on they look like bullfrogs, but because they hang down, this is what you see when you walk by them. But it's a very pretty thing. I love green flowers, so this is one of my favorites. Now, this is something interesting, Angraecum sesquipedale. Now, you know that this is the plant, what they call Darwin's orchid, because when he first saw it, and he saw this long nectary that's up to 14 inches, he predicted there had to be a moth, because the flower was white and fragrant at night. There had to be a moth with a proboscis that was long enough to reach to the bottom of this nectary, because the nectar, of course, is just at the very bottom. But this is also called the Christmas orchid, and it usually blooms around Christmas or just after. As a matter of fact, I find this surprising, but it's kind of interesting, because just the other day, Doug came in and said, "Oh, you know what we have in spike? The Angraecum sesquipedale." And I said, "It can't be. It's not Christmas." Well, I guess some of them don't know when Christmas is. So we have one too that blooms out of season. This is gorgeous. Phalaenopsis corniceri red. Sylvie Porter grew this. She summers her fails outside, which is interesting. I guess she has a way of controlling her squirrels. The interesting thing about the corniceri red is that it actually has some red pigment in the leaves. That what you see on the leaves here is not dirt. It's not problem with leaves. It's actually the anthocyanin color showing in the leaves, and it just has, the plant has just so much of it that it actually shows in the leaves too. It looks like she had finally a flower after, I'm not sure what this means, 1 to 12, or maybe it was, I'm not sure. But anyways, she grew it very patiently for a very long time. Now it's flowering, and you can see that it's going to have lots of buds and going to continue to flower for her.
Sorry, Terry, that was my typo. It's 1.5 years.
Oh, I thought it might be. So, but as I tell everybody, orchids teach you patience and perseverance. So 1.5 years is not that long. One of Colette's fails, this is equestris horticultural form, cerulean, and she says it has long-lasting blooms, and it kikis easily in high heat. Now, this is something that I learned yesterday, that that if you have a phalaenopsis and you raise the heat for a period of time, they quickly form kikis. I didn't know that. I just thought it was a random thing, and it may be why we had this heat wave. And I noticed the other day that one of my daylilies actually has a kiki, so maybe that it's reacting to the heat too. But so that's something to remember. If you're looking for a kiki, just raise the temperature, but it has to be raised quite high, I think. Nicely done. And this is a sequential flower, so not only are the flowers long lasting, as Colette says, but they'll bloom for a very long time. You can see that there's still lots and lots of buds coming. It'll be interesting to see if this is still out 6 months later, Colette. Pen Sheng, this is the first blooming since she got the plant in June. And Peng also has her flowers or her phales outside under a big tree. And I don't know, if I had phales outside, that the squirrels here would make quick work of them. I love this picture, Sylvie. It looks like a watercolor painting. This is a very well-colored Phalaenopsis marii, and she says it actually has a tangerine fragrance. I've never smelled I don't remember smelling the marii, but it certainly is a nice combination of color and the added bonus of the fragrance. Now, this is a species Phalaenopsis that Colette grows that you don't see very often. And she says that the delicate blooms dance in the breeze. This truly looks like the butterfly orchid, and it is very, very pretty. It's not used a lot in breeding, but it is somewhat. It's very similar to Schilleriana. Phalaenopsis violacea forma cerulean. This is the clone Thai blue. And it's you can see it is quite blue, and I'm very impressed with the photography because when I try to photograph my blue Phalaenopsis, they all come out pink. Nicely done, and of course it has a very strong fragrance like the normal one. Vanda falcata, which used to be a Neophanetia, and some of us old folks will still call them Neophanetia because that's what we're used to. That's a pretty small Vanda. Sandra Mikuchi grew this one, and she loves the flowers. And of course, they have beautiful, recurved sepals and petals, and this long, long nectary. And they make pretty plants. And as Tarek Walchuk has told us in the past, they need to be up out of the pot so that the roots can go down. I guess because probably in nature they grow on rocks or something where the roots wanna do this, grow over a dome type thing. And you notice that Sandra has adapted the IKEA cabinet that we heard about from Cheryl Ahrens. Another one of Sandra's plants. This is a gorgeous Sandriana, beautiful pictures of it, and you can see the roots. This is why she has such beautiful flowers. And she also grows in a tent, an orchid tent, a grow tent. This Sandriana, which was taken out of Vanda and made a Euanthe Sandriana, and now is back as a Vanda. But it's the basis for all of our big flowered Phalaenopsis or Vandas. The one thing that the original Sandrianas come from almost sea level, so they grew very wet and very hot. But with line breeding, these are now quite easy to grow under the same as all the other Vandas. So that's a big plus for those of us who love this beautiful species. Another one of Sandra's plants, Pereira, Bangkok Sunset, beautifully fragrant, again grown in a tent. The colors on this, as I recall, are even warmer than this. So it's a beautiful plant to grow. It will bloom more than once a year, and also it stays fairly small, and you can grow it for many, many years before it outgrows your conditions. And one of the children of the Bangkok sunset, also grown by Sandra, is that crossed onto Pine River, Vascostylis Pine River, which is a clear pink color, and you get Repipath pink. And actually, the Repipath pink Repipath comes in several colors, yellow and orange and pink, because somehow the colors segregate, and they've cloned each of the different colors, and they're really pretty. They smell nice, and again, the plants are quite small. Pine River gets a little bit taller, but the Bangkok sunset really reduces the size of the plant. Phalaenopsis Chunglung Vincent, Germain Vincent with Violacea indigo. So this is blue breeding. This is, Peng says that this is the second blooming this year with it only has one flower, but it can have more than one. And because it has, the more stems it gets, you can have a second flower here and gets more stems, then it'll have more flowers. And I bet it's really nicely fragrant too. Here's something else you need to know. See these roots? These are healthy looking roots. Any roots that you can see, or even ones that are in the potting medium, you want to see this growing tip. That means that the roots are looking for moisture, they're looking for nourishment, and they're very actively growing. Phalaenopsis Crystal Surprise, Llewellyn Venus by DL's Bear Queen. We heard a lot about DL's Bear Queen. I'm pretty sure this is a cross that Eric Lee made. And that's why the Crystal Surprise, clonal name, or Greg's name. Colette has grown this. This cross is very varied. When they first bloom, they have 1 to 2. Yes, Colette says it is from Eric. When they first bloom, they're very thick flowers. They're scented. They have 1 to 2 flowers, but as the plants mature, they produce lots of flowers. And I bet that there isn't 2 in the whole bunch that are exactly the same. We've seen ones that were almost solid red. Some were spotted. Some were blotched. They were all different colors, and every single one of them is gorgeous. So this is the influence of your LD's Bear Queen. This is very interesting. Another Colette's plants. Now we've seen both the Sandriata, remember the that looked like butterflies, and the Corniceri sanguinea. Now this may or may not be the real red form. It's called carmine. So I meant I would think that the carmine would be some sort of red color. So, but you can see when you have a primary cross, what you get is something that's really between the two. So you have, it's not as starry as the Corniceri, and it's not as full as the Sandriana, but something in between. And even the color is taken up. You have some of the pale color in the background, and then some of the more solid color in the speckling from the Corniceri. Very interesting to see what happens when you cross 2 species. Another Phalaenopsis Mituo King, Big Pink. This is one of Penn's plants, and she grows this one under lights. She doesn't say that this one goes out under the tree. But it's a beautiful thing, and it has a light fragrance. By the way, the one that I showed you at the beginning, that one is quite fragrant, and it pulses fragrance because as we sat here, we kept smelling it and then not smelling it. So that's what often orchids do. Because they're trying to attract a pollinator, so they don't have to smell all the time. But if they think this is the right time for their pollinator to be flying around, they'll just send out a bit of fragrance and go, come on in, we're ready to be pollinated. So it's kind of an interesting strategic thing happening. This I think is very interesting. The original Princess Phalaenopsis Princess Kailani has been around for a very, very long time. And this is Cinya's plant, and she's been growing this particular one, obviously, for a long time, because you can see how many inflorescences it has. And these inflorescences, of course, continue to bloom year after year after year. The original ones were more in the colors that we were seeing that Pat show us, with the deep golden yellow and the fuchsia in the center, and of course very scented. But this one, this cross was remade. But see, this is another place where using a different forms of the same species, we can get something very different. So the flowers look very much the same, but because both parents are flava or alba, they don't have the anthocyanin in them, we get something that is really nice and white, nice and clear yellow, and obviously just as fragrant. Well done, Sinya. This is a very interesting thing. Elena says that this is a princess among the fails. The young home princess is the name of the cross, and I guess it's named because it has this lip is almost like a skirt, sort of a little bit reminiscent of the oncidiums. But there's a line of breeding where they're breeding for these big lips. There are those who don't like them, those who do. Some of them I like, some of them I don't. I really like the coloring in this. I think this is very, very attractive. And it's very different from other Phalaenopsis that she would have on her table. Now we get into more of the Vandas. This is one of ours. It's a Vanda Pachong Smile, a small Vanda, and easy to bloom. And actually, again, this is much bluer in person, because I just can't get the blue color to come through in the cameras. This is gorgeous. Vanda Princess Mikasa Indigo. Princess Mikasa is considered one of the easiest Vandas to grow and bloom. Although most of the Vandas that we're seeing now are not reluctant to bloom. This one is particularly easy. It does come actually in pink and also in white. But the one that's most preferred, of course, is the blue. And Rhoda says that the color and the flower count she thought was much better than last year. So despite the fact that this Princess Mikasa isn't one of the really hot growing Vandas, I guess a little extra heat really encourages its growth, and its color actually comes up much stronger. Nicely done, Rhoda. Robert's Delight Alexander. Now, if you ask for a Vanda Robert's Delight, you have to specify the clones, because there's so many different clones. This is Alexander. It's a sort of a purpley clone, but there's ones that are almost black. There's deep blue. There's bright blue. There's and Garnet Beauty is a gorgeous deep fuchsia with huge flowers. So you can have a whole collection of just Robert's Delight Vandas, and that each one of them can be a different color. And this is another one of our plants, Viboon Sunset. If you like orange, you need to have one of these. These are when these bloom, and they will bloom more than once a year, and it's not a huge plant, and they will kiki from the bottom, so you get a clump. The one that we've kept for ourselves is actually a three growth plant. There's three kikis close together. You can't divide it because they're joined at the bottom. But the color in this is just absolutely gorgeous. It looks like they're on fire. Now, this I thought was very, very interesting. I've not seen one of these before. Sandra Micucci obviously took a flyer on an unusual cross. This is a Vandopsis pulcherimen. And so this is pulcherima, Phalaenopsis pulcherima, and probably there's one of the varieties is called chaparensis because it has three lips. And this crossed with Vanda miniata, which is not a pyloric form. You get this. Both plants are fairly small, so you get a fairly small plant, and you get this head of flowers that are really quite interesting. I'm not sure if it's fragrant. She doesn't say, but that would be interesting too. It's quite different. I've never seen this one before. Now we're to the slippers, of course. Path Balachalum. Elena is growing this. This is a very happy plant. 3 beautiful flowers on it. The only problem with Bolatulum, it has a very weak stem, and quite often in hybrids, this can be passed on. But it is possible if you use a little bit of a short sort of a stem to prop up those flowers. They're very heavy for the plant, so if you just prop them up a little bit, it's probably a little easier on the plant. And you wouldn't break them off like I do sometimes because you don't see them at the side of the pot. And the flowers are long lasting, and even the leaves are really quite nice, and it doesn't take up a lot of room. I love, this is one of my favorite paths, the Henryanum. I love it's a Hoodview HCC grown by Leslie. Lovely pink pouch, the dots on the dorsal, and this is one of the small growing paths. They're not, the flowers aren't that big either, but they're really very compact and they produce lots of nice color. And Leslie says this is the best flowering since he got it 4 years ago. And one of the things that you have to remember that it's often, now you have cameras that can blow up the pictures to such an extent. It's often a good idea to take a look at the very center of the flowers and see all the other stuff that's going on. Look at the hairs here. You don't see it here, but the intricate patterns and the hairs and just take a close look at your flowers. They really are very intriguing. Another one of Leslie's paths, this is Lowii forma aureum, marigold. Now this one is all yellow. Usually these petals are quite pink, and of course that means that there's no anthocyanin in this plant. And you can see that it's a very attractive thing. Personally, I still like the one with the color, but when this comes out, it is really very, very nice, and it could be very interesting in breeding because then you may be able to get multifloral white flowers. This Paphiopedilum has Charles Worthy question mark. Yvonne McLennan grew this. Plant is 8 years old, blooms every summer with 3 to 4 flowers. Obviously a very nice plant because the leaves are mottled. This is, I would say, I'm almost positive 99% that this is not straight Charles Worthy. If you look at the shape of the dorsal, it's quite different from a normal one, and all this spotting on the petals is not what we usually see with Charles Worthy. And so I would say that probably has a little bit of callosum or maybe even suculi or something. There's something else in there, but hey, it's still a really, really pretty thing and a pretty plant. Now we have a couple of these magic lanterns. This is a cross of Macranthum but Delanatii. Macranthum is a plant can be quite difficult to grow. Delanatii is not so much, but putting the two together, you get these beautiful pink flowers usually, and they can actually be solid pink, and you still have those beautiful mottled leaves. This is Elena's plant. And this is a Cynias plant. See, they're slightly different, but the same coloring. You can see both parents. Again, remember we talked about how if you do a primary cross, you can see both parents. The big pouch comes from the Macranthum, and the Delanatii has added a lot of pink color in through here, and a beautiful coloring even on the boss. Paphiopedilum red hawk, Hinsing Franz with Joanna Burkhardt, and Yvonne Richard grew this. This is one of the multiflorals, big plants, beautiful stately flowers. They take a while to mature each growth, but when they flower, they're gorgeous. Another one, this one is, again, has been around for a long time, Philippinense with Rothschildianum, again, Yvonne's plants. They're they're blooming a little later than some, but if you notice, plants bloom when they feel like blooming. This is a nice clone. Those petals can be like that. They can be almost straight out, or they can be almost straight down. This, I think, is a happy medium between the two. This is Dave Bryan's plant. This one we actually awarded in July, and this particular growth was just starting from the new growth or from the most recent growth. It was awarded on a previous flower, but that one only had one flower, whereas this time it has two. So I guess that he's doing something a little better even than what he was doing before. Nicely done, and nice flowers. Now, I thought this was really neat. This is Cynia's plant, and she says that the petals are 46 centimeters long. And if you multiply, there's 3 flowers with 6 petals. So if you multiply that out, you've got almost 3 meters. That's over 9 feet of petal. Isn't that fabulous? And this is a beautiful clone. These long petals. The grande is also a caudatum cross, so you've got 2 doses of caudatum of the long petals, and so that's why you get such long petals. And remember, when you have these, don't let those petals touch anything, or they'll stop growing. Now this is one of our frags, and this is the picture that I sent to Kathy, and it's a nice flower, but it's a little disappointing because one of the parents, the QF now Kana Kiohoa, is actually a Covacii cross. So I don't see any Covacii in here. However, something very intriguing happened after I sent this picture in. The next flower to open, which was at the top of this inflorescence, looked like this. The next flower that opened, which was on this stem, you can see it here, looks like this. Completely different color, completely different shape, and this is all one plant. So you never know what's going to happen when orchids bloom. But I thought this was really quite an interesting phenomenon. Okay, on to oncidiums. The Penzeng has this beautiful papilio that she grows under a big tree, and I bet it fools some of the butterflies. It has of course, it has no fragrance, but it has these lovely antennae. And remember that these bloom for many, many years on the same stem. The flowers don't last all that long, but hey, if they keep blooming, who cares? And they can produce more stems every year, and so you can have really a nice bunch of these beautiful butterflies floating around. Brassia rex, Sandra Macucci grew this one, and she said that she loves the order of the flowers. At first I thought, because of course brassias are fragrant, I thought that was a typo, and she meant odor. But then I looked again, and of course I should have known that brassias are really orderly. They line themselves up like soldiers, like spider soldiers, and they line up along the branch, and as long as you don't turn the plant too often, they do look very nice, and part of that orderliness is what makes them so attractive. Bretonia, Charles M. Fitch Izumi. This is an old clone that's been around for many, many, many years. It used to be a Miltassia. Everybody had one of these. Now they're really hard to find. So Anna, take good care of this because it is a very special plant. It is fragrant, blooms every fall. It's just a really nice plant to have in a collection. Bretonia and Shalob Tolkien, grown by Colette. This is along the same lines, but it's a little bit more colorful. One of more recent crosses. Sometimes a little bit more reluctant to bloom than the Charles M. Fitch, but does grow and bloom quite easily, and it's wonderful color, very nicely done. And again, you see that beautiful lineup of the flowers that comes from the brassia in the background. Oncidium equigenera dream, Croceiana by Tapestry, that grown by by Eugene and McSweeney. They a plant down here, and you've got the flowers are way up top. So this is the Croceiana is a species that has a very long stem, and obviously this has come through in the progeny, and so it's 4.5 feet long. So I mean the flower, it's almost as tall as I am. The But it's a few months ago we had an issue with this particular cross, and we had a flower that looked very different from this one, and this is actually what we would expect from this particular breeding. Now, remember the Papilio? Well, this is a cross of Papilio with Galihi, which is another similar Psychopsis. And there's a lot of these around, and again, it has hybrid vigor, so these are a little bit easier to grow. The flowers are much bigger usually, and this is a particularly nice blooming. I love the way the antennae sort of just stand right out. So these are your 3 sepals. There's your petals, and there's your lip. So your sepals, are, instead of being 1 up and 2 down, all 3 are up so that they look like antennae. Celaminia Midas Cinia. This is one that Cinia got awarded. We found that this particular cross, Midas, is a sort of a okay grower, produces some flowers, but not all that much. But obviously, it's either Cinia's talent or this particular clone. It really does always produces a terrific display. And as I remember, I think it even blooms more than once a year, but it just seems to be a really vigorous plant. Not a big plant, but certainly produces lots and lots of brilliant flowers. Dendrobium alliance, Dendrobium and Bulbophyllum. Dendrobium lindeni, grown by Insignia tan. Now this is probably the end of the season for lindlei, because after a cool winter, they usually bloom sort of February, March, April. Now this one is probably one that went, oh, I forgot to bloom, so it bloomed. And of course, Asinia's plants always bloom for her. This is one that Elena grows, and she likes it because of she likes the flowers because they're so whimsical. I like the growth habit of these. They look like these sort of, I don't know, cucumbers or pencils. But what Elena doesn't mention is that this is also very, very fragrant. And again, because these are almost look like cacti, they're succulent leaves. These leaves want a lot of light. And you can see that Elena has been growing it really well. What it looked like before was this. The new growth is much thicker and bigger, and these are the growths that are blooming. So Elena is really doing well with this plant. Now this I found interesting. Sylvie says that she has 3 spikes. I guess the other one is coming someplace else, but it's a plant. Bulbophyllum elizabethan buckleberry it's really stunning because of these huge flowers with it, with the long tails, and they produce these umbels. But I never actually smelt them, I guess. But she says it smells like an overripe peach. So next time ours blooms, I guess I'm going to have to check it out. But this is a good bulbophyllum to grow, easy to flower, and it just, each bulb will flower, and it'll. Pardon? Well, I didn't think it smelled. Doug says it smells okay, but Sylvie says it's overripe peach. I have to smell my peaches. This is one of ours. This is Dendrobium Bella Marie. Dawn Marie, most of us are familiar with, is the very long-lasting flowers, and it has these lovely white white sepals and petals and the bright orange lip. This was crossed with Bellatulum, which is a very similar type flower, but the plant is only about 6 inches tall. What I would assume they were hoping is to have these big flowers on smaller plants. However, ours isn't that small. It's over a foot tall. Now we have a series of hibikis, and this first one is Eugene's plant, and he says it starts blooming in July and finishes in December, and that's the really neat thing about the hibikis. The flowers last for a very, very long time. In fact, in our greenhouse, we have some in bloom just about all year round because the flowers last for so long, and they vary in depth of color and even the shape of the plants. And the plants are really quite compact. Here's one that Nick Cox has, and it's much lighter in color. And you can see even the leaves are brighter green, lighter green. Now that may be to do with the amount of light it's getting. I don't know, but certainly they do look quite different from the previous one. And this one is even darker than the first one. We actually saw one that was awarded that actually had at one of the SOOS shows that there was a lot of red in the leaves and the pseudobulbs, and the canes. And we gave it a JC just because not only were the flowers quite dark, they weren't very big, but they were quite dark, but the whole plant had this really reddish hue on them. So it was really quite different. Now we go to the Cymbidium and Catacetinae. Galeandra leptoceros, Ted and Charlene's plant. I love this particular genus, but we can't seem to grow it. I don't know why. This is one that does require, now Ted says that it's semi-dormant in winter, and this is the second blooming. And I know that they will rebloom from the old stems, and they bloom more than once a year. However, we've not been successful with this. So good on you that you can grow this and produce flowers twice a year. This is Yvonne's McLennan's plant, and this is Catasetum Diana's dots, Orglade Davy Ranches with Tigrinum. Tigrinum has a lot of very small spotted flowers, and we'll see the Orglades Davies branches a little bit later. But the cross has produced quite big flowers, very, very gentle, I think very clean color, nice spotting, and a very nice combination of the two parents. Now this is a cross, again, Ivan's plant Catasetum Yosito Moonlight, Tenebrosum with Double Dawn. This is very reminiscent of the Tenebrosum. Tenebrosum tends to be is a very dark has very dark sepals and petals and yellow or green lip, and it's very dominant both for shape and color when it's crossed with other parents. Now here is the Catasetum Orglades Davy Ranches, AMAOS. This was actually first awarded in 1980. My recollection, and if you take a look through at pictures of Davy Ranches, I'll always think of it as being much deeper yellow with more blotchy spotting. But I guess it can vary. I don't know if different clones vary. So it'd be interesting to hear from Sinya whether it always blooms this color, because it is quite a lot lighter than what I would have expected. But it has 16 large flowers and would be very, very beautiful. Now there's another orchid glade. This is our plant, it's Jack of Diamonds. This one was actually awarded in 1984. So both of these, this cross has been around for a long time. Now this one only had 10 flowers, so it's not nearly as nice as as Sinya's, but it has color. So you can see again, same cross, very, very different in plants, but they are from the same seed pod. And especially in catasetums, you can get a lot of very different colors. Now, when you put this is Cygnodes Jumbo Phoenix Jumbo, then Sinya says that it had 20 flowers. The flowers are larger and darker than Wine Delight. Wine Delight is one that everybody knows, and because it's a dark, um, deep maroon color, or red color that everybody wants to grow. So if these are so good, why wasn't this at judging yesterday? And with the Cycnodes and the Marmodes in there, these probably last a good while longer than straight catasetums. But you get the color, the really good deep color from the Marmodes. And of course, we do have to have a cymbidium, and very unusual at this time of year, but the golden elf seems to bloom at all kinds of different times. And as Elena says, it's reminiscent of Asian artwork. And this is the kind of thing, the straight leaves, it is a miniature that you see in Asian art. Quite often it's used as, in those brush paintings. Now we go to the miscellaneous, all the odds and sods. This is Silogeny morillii, and grown by Ted and Charlene Kretz. And it summers under a chestnut trees and grows in an 8-inch clay azalea pot. So Silogenies tend to multiply quite quickly, but they don't need deep pots. So growing them in an azalea pot is a good idea. And the other thing is to remember with Silogenies is that when they're growing and they're flowering, as Pat said, when they're growing and flowering, that's when they need lots of water. At other times, not so much. Another one of Ted and Charlene's plants, like Lycaste candida variety alba, key lime. That clonal name is very, very familiar. I wonder if in the background originally came from our greenhouse, because this is a clonal name that Doug often uses. But this is beautiful. I love white and green flowers. Very nice. And then we have a Lycaste depii, Dandy's golden lip. This is the smaller piece that bloomed first, but the mother plant has 8 or 9 flowers. They weren't open yet when I took the picture of this one, but it is very pretty, nice flowers. It goes dormant, loses all its leaves, and it flowers as the new growth starts. See, there's the new growth, and all of the buds come up, and before this growth gets very big, all the flowers have finished flowering. This is another thing that was sent out, and usually this would go into the group that has the orchids grown for foliage, but since it's the only one, it came with a miscellaneous. But you notice that this planifolia is the variegated variety. You can see this is the normally what you expect, but this branch started growing, and you can see it lost its chlorophyll. So this part has no chlorophyll at all, and so it's pure white. I just thought that was really neat. So again, something unusual. Orchids keep surprising us. Lysudomulia red jewel. This is Anguloa pseudomere Lycaste cross, so it gets to be very complicated. I wish they'd go back to Ida, and we're still hoping they will. But this is an interesting color form of red jewel, because red jewel, when we've seen it bloom, we've seen many of them bloom, they're usually a darker color, but they've also bloomed at cooler temperatures. I wonder if this lovely orange that we see here, instead of the deeper red that is often seen, is due to the fact that it bloomed during the time that it was so hot in this area. This is, of course, Kathy's plant, and this is the second bloom this year. Now, this is not one of our plants. It's Paphanopia Doug Kennedy. we bloomed the first one and asked Equigenera if we could name it, and so it got named. They said, well, of course, well then name it Doug Kennedy. So that's why it got that name. But this is one that we will hope to get to judging, but of course they don't last very long, and it bloomed the week before. So I got the picture for the show table, but it never made it to judging. But these flowers were about 10 inches across from tip to tip. They were just absolutely stunning. And there were 6 flowers on one stem. So it really is quite spectacular. Too bad it doesn't last a little longer. And then we go to a Tristella Equigenera, and this is a really tiny thing. So that Paphanopia was a plant that's probably 2.5 feet tall, and this Tristella is probably 2 inches tall. And this is a Hosierai by Triglocken, and it's very, the flowers are both the same, very similar. So this is a close-up of the flower. So they're very, very tiny. And this was grown by Sandra, and she calls her tiny Martian, and it's grown in a terrarium. So Sandra has many different areas where she grows things, and obviously has learned to that her plants talk to her and tell her which space they need. Now, displays, fortunately, we do have one very nice display, and done by Kathy Dunn, and she's even named it and called it Autumn Harvest. And of course, that's because of the colors involved, nice plants, nicely arranged. Actually, I think Kathy's just showing off her actual autumn harvest. That's quite the zucchini that forms an entire frame around the display. Nicely done. See, it's very simple. I encourage more of you to try. We had several people with several plants, so put them together. Give us a little bit of a taste of an orchid show that we can't get to these days. Okay, and with that, we come to our plant of the month, and this is grown by Sinya Tan. It had 38 flowers. Cycnochus cooperi, Sinya, of course, and it got an HCC in 2016. And when it was awarded, it had 25 flowers. So it's now got 38. And I looked up the other awards on cooperi, and what I found was there was one plant that had 41 flowers, and that was grown in Taiwan. But the closest one to this was 31. So Sinya, very well done. And we have a fantastic plant of the month. Now, Sinya, do you want to come on and tell us a little bit of how you grow this particular plant?
I have to put in, I put in slow release when the plant is vigorous growing. And so the king this time is like 4-5 inches taller than the previous one. That's why the flower count is so much more. And they're all there, really nice. I find the pollen of this one that is not as easy to pop as the Cycnochus. Maybe it's because it's hanging on the tip of the arch that's coming up. Somehow the formation keeps the pollen intact.
Sinya, the Cycnochus aren't so easy to pop as a rule. It's the catasetums that pop.
But
Cycnochus don't pop as easily.
The other one, what was it? The other one you just talked about, the big red one with the Wine Delight, they pop just like crazy. You said that, why didn't you bring it for judging yesterday? Because half the flower already popped the pollen and then it's gone. This one is still intact.
Oh, very nice. Now, the other question is, I wonder, now you've got almost twice as many flowers as when it was awarded. It'd be interesting to measure the size of the flower and see if the flowers are as big as they were when you had 28 flowers.
I'm sure it's just bigger. I can measure it. I'll measure it and I'll let you know. But I think that would
be interesting, because oftentimes when when you have, more flowers, the flowers are slightly smaller, but these ones look like they're really big. So
Yeah,
actually, if
the
you,
whole plant got bigger. The
yeah.
height of the plant, the size, everything got bigger, and then the flower count also gone crazy.
Well, and this is for everybody. The question was asked yesterday at judging. If you already have an award on a plant, can you bring it back for another award? Of course you can. And in this case, where you had 25 flowers and you got an HCC, when you have almost double the size of the number of flowers, and if the flowers are even bigger, it can easily be upgraded to an AM. So just because it's been awarded before and all of a sudden it's flowered bigger and better and more colorful or whatever, it's worth bringing in. Just for
I just don't know, lost track of when you guys are having judging, because it used to be so routine the day before. Now I just don't know.
Well, it's
So,
back to the day before.
okay.
Back to the day before. It's because it's just the getting started. And we did say that it would be on October 2nd. Now that, of course, pending of what happens, and things do happen and we may have to cancel, but as things stand, and if we can get the one of the big halls, it'll be on October 2nd.
Okay.
Okay. So, congratulations, Sinya, and thank you for yeah, the slow release is very important, I think, for the catasetums. We found that too. That makes a big difference.
Yeah. Oh, and never let it dry. Lots of fertilizer so that it'll grow like crazy.
And then do you let it rest completely?
I never really. I just water it less.
So it doesn't really dry out.
When all the leaves shut off, but then normally already have a new growth coming out. I never completely not water at all, and they
Okay.
are fine with me. And they never rot on me.
Well, I think that if when they're growing, they need water, and I think that when you've got small plants, they do shut down and they don't grow for a while. Whereas with the big plant, they've got so much energy, they go, well, I'm finished with this growth, I'll just put out a new one.
Yeah. So just watch the water when it's all the leaves shut off. Just don't water as much. Don't keep water as a regular amount, and it will be okay.
Okay, thank you very much. And
Thank you.
congratulations again. Okay,
Thank
and
you.
thank you to all the people that sent pictures of their plants. We had 19 contributors this month, and I think that's very good. But there was over 30 people that participated, so a few more people could add at least one or two plants pictures. Anyways, and thank you to our judge, which when you have 90 plants to judge, it's a big job. But because our judges aren't all able to come to judging these days, giving them this kind of a job really keeps them in the loop. So thank you for sending your pictures of your lovely plants. And of course, if you want to join judging, it's a really great group of people. And just, you can contact me, you can contact any of the judges here, or just go to judges at aos.org and it'll give you more information about the judging system. And this is something that we always need to have a little bit of a chuckle. And sometimes you go into the greenhouse and you see something that's really weird and it really makes you smile. Well, share those smiles with us. Like this one, where this no-name Phalaenopsis is playing hide and seek with John Vermeer. See, he's just hiding under the leaf here. Nicely done. It gives us all a bit of a smile to share. Thank you for coming. And back over to you, Kathy. Kathy?
Hi. I
Oh.
think that's it for the day. So the dates for the next show table will be from September 19th to the 29th.
And don't wait till the 29th. Kathy does a lot of work with these, and it's easier for her if you can send them in a little bit earlier.
It does, because I look up every flower name. to spell it correctly and to add the parents. Have a great weekend. John, did you want to say anything before we go?
Yes, guilty as charged, sending my photos in late on a Wednesday evening. So I'll try to be better. Thank you all for attending. Thank you all for bringing your photos and sharing them with us. Thank you especially to Kathy and Terry, who put this together and then have to describe it to us and edit, and it requires a lot of research and a lot of work. So thank you both to you and everyone who participated. And now that these clouds are coming, I'm going to rush outside before it hopefully rains, because I got tons of plants to go into my garden outside. And yeah, I'm running out of time to do that. So see you all next time, which is Sunday, October the 3rd, when it'll be a little chillier for us, but it'll still be hot where Claude Hamilton is down in Jamaica.